Saturday morning cartoons, whatever choices you had, you chose to be with us. And we're going to honor this time by giving you one of our premier speakers for the fully employed MBA program, the director, is it assistant dean? I don't know what your exact title is, Dylan.
That'll work.
Okay, assistant dean of the FEMBA program. You're going to have a very rare opportunity to be in a very small, intimate space with one of our decision makers for admissions. He's going to walk us through some of the benefits, the thinking behind why you want to get an MBA. And then later this morning, we're going to have our director of operations, Chris Thompson, come in and actually walk you through the tips and tricks to get the best application in front of us. So you have a solid 2-hour block of programming that is a part of our Embracing Diversity conference. And again, it's my pleasure to welcome all of you here. My name again is Roy Quinto, for those of you who just joined us. And I'll be available after this webinar and throughout the application process if you need any other assistance. So this is not a one-off thing. This is part of a multi-step journey that we're beginning together this morning. So with that said, I'd like to invite our main guest speaker, Dylan, to start us off. Thank you so much. Dylan, it's yours.
Hey, thank you, Roy, and welcome everybody. Good morning. Thanks for those of you who've got your camera on. I'm happy to do camera on or camera off, but I always love to meet people. I'm Dylan Stafford. As Roy said, I'm the Assistant Dean and Director of Admissions here with Fully Employed MBA program. Roy is part of a wonderful team. This Embracing Diversity Week has been planned all year, but very intensely the last 2 months. And we are grateful for your participation. Hope you heard some of the speakers this week. Yesterday's panel included fully employed MBA students, and Monday's panel, and all week the different events featured alumni and current students. Many of the voices from all of the different parts of our really wonderful community. And this morning we're going to go a little bit just at FEMBA, really focus on what the fully employed MBA program is all about. So with no further ado, this is my rough agenda, and let me just tell you I'm a hypocrite out of the gate. I talk too much, so there's no way I will hit these time marks. I love UCLA. I've been here. This is my 20th year. I'm a huge fanboy about the opportunity of UCLA. So I can't squeeze it in, but I've purposely baked in 2 different pauses in the middle because otherwise you will probably faint from all the words that I will throw in your general direction. So I'm gonna try to go about 20 minutes about UCLA plus you, then pause and ask for some questions, and then flip the script and do the second half, 20 minutes about you plus UCLA. Is this worth it? Is this the right pathway for you to write your best career story? Okay, so that's the game. So real quick, that's me. I've been here in my 20th year. I'll celebrate 20 years next August. If you hear a twang, that's because I grew up in Texas. I was raised in a small town in East Texas, 20,000 people. Mostly the demographics of my childhood were Black people and white people. We had, I think, one possibly Asian family in town. There was one Jewish family. There weren't really any Hispanic families yet. I grew up in a very small world, and I now live in Culver City, California, one of the most diverse school systems in the world. I'm raising 2 sons to be what I hope they'll be open-minded global citizens. So, that's where I started. I went to Texas A&M undergrad. My MBA is from the University of Chicago. I was a full-time student there. My first post-MBA job was with Siemens, a German electronics company. I spent 6 years there, got laid off after 9/11, followed my girlfriend, becoming fiance, now my forever wife, to Los Angeles with her career, got a little foot in the door job at UCLA 19 and a half years ago. Never thought I was going to be here. I thought, whatever, it's just a way to pay rent and I'll get discovered and get a real job. I guess I've not been discovered. I've been here 20 years and I love it. I have a podcast called UCLA Drive Time. I will give you a bunch of links today for success stories of students and alumni that you can listen to later. I teach a module called Stand and Deliver, something called Leadership Labs. I'm a big cheerleader for this place. I've spoken to thousands of people, written a couple of books while I've been here, and I'm still writing my life story. And I think UCLA is a incredible partner to write the best story you can write for your life. So that's my why. My why is the world needs leaders. This is a laboratory for leadership. This is one of the most powerful places you could spend quality time. And I want to give you some evidence points for that this morning, let you ask some questions. And if you grace us with an application and you get to be a part of our community, we will be grateful you're here. And we are a trusted partner for you to aim higher and aim at the best you that you could hopefully ever be in this life. That's the game that gets me out of bed every morning, and even on a Saturday morning. So, hey, Carissa. All right, great. We even have some student voices. And Roy, I don't know if Roy said, Roy's an alum of the program also. So Roy is one of the great team members who runs our team. And they're on the next slide. So this is the admissions team. Ta-da! Roy, just to spotlight Roy for just a second, Roy was a principal. Roy has a doctorate in education and reinvented his life and is now in university administration at an entirely different level. You'll also meet Raymond Murata. He outbounds all of our marketing and communications. Aaron runs the transcript process. So if you have any questions as you're submitting your transcripts, Chris, that you'll meet next hour, is our director of admissions operations. Cynthia is the voice of FEMBA. She runs our front desk. Christy, you will not meet until between February and April because Christy is on maternity leave. So Christy will be back, but you won't meet her for a couple of months because she is raising her brand new baby. Okay, and we also have our FEMbassadors. So we have a volunteer crew of current students and even some alumni. I'm going to give you all these links at the end. I have so many links, so don't even worry. You can take pictures, but the links are all ridiculously long, and I will give them to you at the end. But Will and Wing are the co-presidents, and we have over 60 FEMbassadors on our website. So why would you do FEMBA? What does FEMBA mean? FEMBA is the fully employed MBA. So the idea is this is a working professional. This is a junior executive, right? I may not exactly be an executive yet, but I got a job worth keeping. And the way to determine if you should be a full-time or a fully employed student, this is a shorthand cheat, but it helps. Ask yourself this question, and I'll just go slow so you can answer it in your own mind. Do you like your job? Or is it at least tolerable, right? Do you like your boss? Same thing, or at least are they tolerable? Do you like real-time results, right? Do you have a bias for action? Because the thing about going to class on Thursday night and going back to work on Friday morning is you're not the same employee Friday morning that you were Thursday morning because of what happened in class Thursday night. So if you like your job, it's like this, maybe it's not my forever job, but it's my right now job, and I worked hard to get here. Do you like your boss? Do they believe in you? Do they believe in your growth and development? Do you feel like there's a trajectory within your organization that's decent, right? Like it might not make sense to just quit because I worked hard to get here, and the opportunity cost to just quit this and be a full-time student, that might not be the right cost for me. Everybody's personal calculus is everybody's personal calculus, but for you. So if you like your job, you like your boss, you like kind of real-time results, and you want an MBA, you want the education, you want the experience, you want the network. We talk about think fearlessly, share success, drive change, right? Your head, your heart, your gut. This is a opportunity that's built for a person in those general ideas. I like what I'm doing. I worked hard to get here. They still respect me. I'm still growing. I can't just quit this. I need the experience. I need the revenue. I like the salary. I want the MBA. If I don't do it now, I might never do it. That's FEMBA's sweet spot. So most of our students are between 27 and 33. We have some who are younger. We have many who are older, but 70, 80% of our profile is between about 27 and 33. So 5 to 8 years out of undergrad, doing well. Our average salary last year, the last couple of years, has been over 100,000 for people walking in the door, but kind of hit a plateau. Like, I'm good at this. People respect me, but what else? What else? So if that feels like it might be you, then FEMBA might be for you. And if not, just, listen to me anyway, because I'm going to talk about UCLA and I want to talk about you and talk about grad school in general. So this is what you would get to say. And now this is another one you can practice in your mind. Yeah, I'm a grad student at UCLA. It's like nice conversation starter, right? Put it on your profile. Yeah, I'm getting my MBA at UCLA Anderson, right? It's a way of being that grad school is, right? Like undergrad, we go because we go. I mean, some of you were organized, but I know for me, I went to undergrad because that's just what you did. But graduate school, I chose. I was a full-grown grown-up by the time I applied to grad school. When I applied to undergrad, I was, 17. I didn't know what to do other than my parents went to school, my grandparents went to school. I guess I'll go to school. So I'm a grad student at UCLA. I'm working on my MBA at UCLA. It's a way of being that comes with this investment that one makes in oneself. So what is FEMBA? FEMBA is it's the same faculty as our daytime program. It's the same faculty as our executive MBA program. Everybody who gets an MBA from Anderson puts the same diploma on the wall. Everybody comes to the same campus. Everybody's part of the same alumni network. But with FEMBA and also our executive MBA program, you keep working. You keep working while you go to school. But the core of it, what the sheepskin that sits on the wall that announces to the world you have an MBA, there's only one from UCLA Anderson. It's really like we have 3 different pathways. Quit your job, be a full-time student, or if you keep your job, you can go FEMBA, you can go executive. FEMBA is number 1. We're very proud of our reputation. We're the number 1 program in Southern California since rankings started. So the first part-time ranking, I believe, was 1996 from US News and World Report. We've never not been the number 1 program in Southern California. About half the time, we're best in the West. It's either us or Berkeley. We go back and forth. For 10 years, Business Week had rankings for part-time programs from 2007 to 2017. Business Week did a biannual. They've stopped doing that. We were number 1 in the nation in the inaugural Business Week ranking. And last week, Fortune got in the game. So Fortune magazine just started ranking part-time programs. Very first edition came out last week. We were number 5 there. So we're currently number 5 in the nation in both US News and in Fortune, and number 1 in Southern California. FEMBA is a transformative career experience. The graduates 2 years ago, what we do is we measure our career team, tracks everybody down till we get to 75% reporting. So 75% reporting, so a very high feedback number. Of the 79% of the people who reported to career team 2 years ago, their salary increased 49% from start of program to end of program. And we were thrilled with that number. We'd never recorded it that way before. And we were almost worried it was too good to be true. So we didn't even talk about it a whole lot. And then COVID happened, so it was a blur anyway. But last year during COVID, 2020, it went even higher. So the 2020 graduates saw their salary, again, 75% reporting, increase 55% from start of program to 4 months after graduation. So this is a transformative experience for your career. If you are like me, you're not looking at a 49 or 55% salary increase over the next 3 years, right? That's not normally how our careers go. But this education experience network is so catalytic, right? We take people between 27 and 33 and we make an atmosphere that has you show up different. You stand a little taller, you pull your shoulders back, you raise your hand, you volunteer, you start to be a leader in your career where you had been a good steady Eddie. Now you start to be that person. Wow, look at them. There's something about them, right? And we are your trusted partners in that transformative mid-career catalytic chapter. So some of our highlights, we have world-class field studies. We have a 6-month field study baked into the program. I'll show you on the next slide. We have the Global Access Program, which about 75% of our students do, where you and a team are matched with an international high-tech, high-growth company. Or you can choose the entrepreneurial option, which is called business creation option, where you actually create a company. We don't think any school, anywhere, full-time, part-time executive has better field studies than do we. We are incredibly proud of our field study. You can think of it like a master's thesis. It's not a master's thesis, it's a practicum. Both of them 6 months long, working with your peers, very practical, hands-on. You get to test everything you've learned up to that point. You get to test it in reality. We have globally diverse citizenry. Again, I told you I grew up in a very small, provincial, small town America type environment. A typical FEMBA class has between 28 and 35 countries of birth. So a typical, that's just normal for us. We have about 30 different countries of birth. So we very much look like California. And California, especially big city California, is one of the most diverse places you can live anywhere on the planet. And that's just our steady Eddie normal state. And then lastly, just incredible flexibility. So let me say more about flexibility. So this slide will make your head spin because there's so much flexibility in our curriculum. So it's 9 quarters. It's about 2.5 years to do the experience. You can do it faster. You can do it in as short as 2 years. You can stretch it out to 4 years. You can even stretch it out beyond that with special permission. But the basic idea is it's about 9 quarters. And it has a first half and a second half. The first half is just set. It's the core curriculum. So let me show you what it looks like. It's the blue piece I'll show you now. So half of the program is just steady state. You don't even have to think about it. You just get admitted. And then these are the classes that you take for the core curriculum. So we have a kickoff at the end of summer called Leadership Foundations. It's a 1-week residential. It's super fun. You take a week off work. Everybody comes. It's a blast. It's like a 5-day wedding because it's a course, but it's also orientation all wrapped into one with a whole bunch of interactive. There's a ropes course. There are breakouts or working sessions. Plus you meet some of the really rock star faculty from organizational behavior. So that kicks off the summer. And then you take 2 classes a quarter, fall, winter, spring, and fall. So you take statistics and you basically start with data and people. So you take statistics and organizational behavior in the fall, accounting and economics in the winter, finance and marketing in the spring. Then in the fall of your second year, you take operations and strategy. And then the field study that I spoke of a moment ago, that is the summer and fall after your second year into the fall, that's your 8th and 9th quarter. Okay. So this is half the curriculum. Now that part's set. The only thing there you have to choose is, do you want to do the global access program or the business creation option? So here comes the flexibility. So here it gets crazy. So there are 9 electives out of the 20 total courses. So there's 36 units of electives. And these are the yellow bricks. So you take 2 electives that first summer, and then winter, spring, you take 2 more electives each winter and spring of year 2, and then 1 more elective in summer and fall while you do your field study. So that's one way it can go. Plus the vertical one there, we have what we call block electives, which are in the breaks. So spring break, fall break, summer break, and winter break, you always have compressed courses where you actually earn an entire 4 units of credit in a very consolidated period of time in 1 week. So there's this, but wait, there's more. You could also choose to give yourself the summer off. So it's like, whoa, I just did first year. That was great, but I need a little break. Okay, so I'm not going to take any electives in the summer. Maybe I'll take those electives in winter. So I'll stay an extra quarter. Instead of 9 quarters, I'll take a 10th quarter. Okay, cool. Or maybe I don't want to do a block elective, and maybe I don't want to take an elective while I'm doing my field study. Fine, no problem. You could take 2 classes in spring. So you can accordion, you can shorten it down to 2 years. You can stretch it to 10 quarters, 11 quarters, all the way to 4 years. You can take a leave of absence after the first quarter. After you've completed the first quarter, you can take a leave of absence. People take a 1 quarter, 2 quarter, up to a year leave of absence. So I get a promotion. I have to go to Asia. My family expands. We're going to have a baby. Oh my God, we weren't thinking we were going to do that right now. So the program is just ridiculously flexible. Oh, sorry, there's more animation. And these are where the block electives happen. So you can just mix and match, and you can customize this both timing wise. You can customize it in terms of 45%, 9 of the 20 classes are elective. So you can focus on very many different things within the bigger elective choice group. And you just can make this work for your life. Because, you know, typical human being between 27 and 33, a lot of life happens, right? People go from single to committed relationship to, you know, fully married or committed forever. Children arrive, promotions happen, international assignments. 27 to 33, again, we're younger and older, but that's just a high energy part of a person's life journey. And we want to meet you where you are so that you keep working, you keep growing, you keep getting promoted, and you've got the ability to earn your MBA. Oh my God, I'm never going to hit my time stamp. Okay, so you're also part of our alumni network. There are 7,000 FEMBA alumni. There are 41,000 Anderson alumni. There are 540,000 UCLA alumni around the world, 120 countries. Ucla, you know, when you travel in non-English speaking parts of the world, it's not UCLA, it's Ucla. It is one of the premier university brands on the planet, the University of California overall and UCLA in particular. And that's part of you now. That's on your resume. Our old dean, Judy Olian, she used to say, you can get divorced. And she was divorced, so she said it with love. But she said, but you can't get rid of us. We're on your resume forever. So this is bigger than a marriage, which is a silly way she used to say it. So why UCLA? So this first part is about UCLA and you. So just a few, I could do this all day, but a few minutes of bragging about UCLA. UCLA, if you don't know, it's the last 5 years been ranked by a US News and World Report as the #1 public university in the world. So 2017 through 2021. It's the most applied to, this is undergrad, it's the most applied to university in the United States. Some of you may have gone to UCLA, wave your hand if we got any double Bruins. All right, well, it's very difficult to get into UCLA undergrad. They had over 139,000 applications for this fall's entering class. And they've been the most applied to university. We've been the most applied to undergraduate university in the nation for, I think, a decade now. You're part of this global brand. I said that. UCLA has made history for 102 years. We were founded in 1919, and we've made a difference in society, in research, in athletics. And I just want to talk about that for a minute. In the spirit of this week, I want to focus on diversity. UCLA is already diverse. And let me show you kind of what that looks like. I mean, the theme of embracing diversity is we're not done yet. And we want the biggest possible pipeline. We want access to everyone in society, regardless of your starting point, that this could be a destination for you. That's the goal. But we've already been playing this game. This is not a last 2 years kind of initiative around here. This is baked into the DNA of our school. And I want to show you some of that. We're already a minority majority reality. So the University of California and UCLA is, 75% are people of color right now, today. This is not our aspiration for someday. This is who we are right now. 54 out of 100 undergrads are women. We've already broken through in the sense of expanding diversity beyond just Caucasian heritage human beings and beyond just men. So this, again, I'll give you all these links. This is a really cool interactive chart. They took the entire University of California undergraduate population, which is over 200,000 people. It's amazing. It's one of the biggest university networks on the planet. And they just distilled it down to 100 people. Just to make it really visual. So if you took the entire undergraduate population of all the, I think there are 10 total campuses. Roy, you may know more than me. Roy went to Berkeley before he went to UCLA, but he also went to Harvard and he went to LMU. Roy's very well educated. If you take all the undergrads of the entire UC system, 34 are of Asian heritage, 25 are Hispanic heritage, 21 are Caucasian. They don't have the number there. Other, mixed race, something besides those three categories, 4 are African American. So, this is the big universe. So there's the University of California, then there's UCLA, and within UCLA there's Anderson, and within Anderson there's the fully employed MBA program. So we are nested in a world that is committed to everyone having the ability to have a seat at the table, and we've taken great ground in that. And this is just a silly Southern thing, but when I was a kid, there was a song, the refrain was, I was country when country wasn't cool. Well, building on that theme, UCLA was diverse before diverse was cool. And let me give you some evidence of that. So our Center for African American Studies is the Bunch School for the Study of African Americans. It's named after Ralph Bunch, class of 1927. He was the valedictorian of our 5th class. So where I grew up in East Texas in 1927, there weren't a lot of African American valedictorians at the state schools, because in Texas, the state schools didn't desegregate until 1963 with the civil rights legislation. So UCLA was ahead of the curve 4 or 5 decades before the rest of the company. Ralph Bunch left UCLA, earned his PhD in poli-sci from Harvard, went on to win the Nobel Prize in 1950. First African-American to win, and person of color, to win the Nobel Peace Prize. See him here shaking hands with MLK. Tom Bradley, a few years after. So Professor Bunch was 1927. Tom Bradley, class of 40, first African-American mayor of Los Angeles, served in that role for 20 years. This person most people do know about, Jackie Robinson, if you saw the movie, first person to letter in 4 sports at UCLA, 24 years before the Civil Rights Act of 1965. And of course, the person who broke the color barrier in American sports in Major League Baseball. And just for historical context, Major League Baseball in the 40s in America, if you take the popularity of the NFL and the NBA today, so football plus basketball, and put that into one sport, that was baseball in American zeitgeist. So, and it was there was a Caucasian league and the Negro League, right? It was a totally separate world. And one person walked across that and broke through that. And it was a UCLA graduate, Jackie Robinson. Little more modern, Ava DuVernay, I can never say her name right, trips my tongue every time. Graduated in 95. She hasn't won her Oscar yet, but she's going to, and she will. So that's a little bit society in science. If you don't know, the very first ping of the internet was from UCLA up to Stanford. So, our Dean Bernardo likes to say, within 1 square mile, so much history has been made. And that includes the birthplace of the internet. This is a little trivia. If you don't know, what was the first internet message? We'll skip the chat thing. The first internet message was LO. It was supposed to be login, and it crashed after the O. So Professor Kleinrock later said, well, lo, as in lo and behold, we didn't plan it, but we could not have come up with a better message, short and prophetic. And as we come out of this pandemic at this point in history, imagine if we'd tried to go through this pandemic without the internet, right? Like we can't even think about it, but we got through this entire thing because of Zoom, all of that. So here we are 50 years later, that started here at UCLA. Couple more. Oh my God. See, Roy, there's no way. There's no way. It's just aspirational. I'm sorry, guys. I can't do this in 20 minutes. Paul Tarasaki, if you've ever had a loved one who had an organ donated, Paul Tarasaki was the scientist who did the research that led to the ability to tissue type and to interchange organs between people, kidney transplant, liver transplant, heart transplant. And his family, this is a horrible story, but this is America's legacy. His family, Japanese American heritage, they were put in concentration camps here in California during World War II, racism at its ugliest. And he came out of that. He didn't get bitter, he got better, and earned 3 degrees from UCLA and founded One Lambda, a billion-dollar scientific enterprise, and gave back to this society, which didn't treat him right, but he didn't give up on America. He contributed to America. And, he's another proud triple Bruin. Last year, there's only 20 of the 607 Nobel Prizes given in the sciences. Only 20 have gone to women. And the 21st was given to Professor Getz, one of UCLA's standout physicists, another word I can't say. We're going to host the Olympics in 2028, both the Olympics and the Paralympics. UCLA will be the athletes' village. So Los Angeles will be the center of attention for the planet. And within that, UCLA will be where the athletes stay the entire undergraduate dormitory complex will be filled with all the athletes for the Olympics and the Paralympics. One of our current FEMBAs, Carol Ann Link, is actually on the Paralympic organizing committee. She was a guest speaker yesterday, if you saw that morning presentation. A little bit more about athletics. UCLA has won more Olympic medals than most countries. And even within FEMBA, we've had 3 Olympic gold medalists in the fully employed MBA program. Ed Moses is class of 16. He won gold and silver in the kind of pre-Michael Phelps era down in Sydney. I promised you podcast links. So I've recorded about 75 podcasts in the last 5 years. Very first one I ever recorded was with Ed Moses. And that's not a good person to warm up with, because he's been interviewed hundreds of times and I was doing it for the first time, but he's a great guy. He was gentle with me and we had a great conversation. We had Susan Francia graduate in the class of 2018. She's our 3rd Olympic gold medalist. Her story is just incredible. We recorded it in my office about 2 weeks before COVID. Her story is just amazing. Her parents were immigrants from Hungary. They defected from Hungary. Her mother is a scientist who was written up in the New York Times this year based on her mRNA research. I'm probably saying that wrong, but she's one of the scientists who helped us come up with the vaccine. And she and her husband fled Hungary for freedom. They came to America. They had their life savings. Susan was only 2 years old at the time. And on the plane ride over, they sewed their life savings into Susan's teddy bear. And she tells this funny story on the podcast about they were more worried about where the bear was than where their daughter was. She's an inspirational speaker. She herself works in a big farm down in San Diego. She went to Penn, and her mother is a researcher at Penn. And because she's from Philadelphia, she has a cool story about meeting Kobe Bryant at the Olympics and becoming friends. And Kobe actually became a mentor to her and kind of helped her think about what it's going to be like to be famous. After she had won her first gold medal, she won gold twice in both Beijing and in London. So these are people who would be part of your alumni network. These are part of UCLA overall, Anderson, FEMBA in particular. So I've got hundreds of these success stories that I've had the pleasure of hearing as a person here, and I've recorded 75 of them on the Drive Time podcast. These were 6 that were released this summer: James, Derek, Maxine, Ben, Arun, and Megan. So these are all new graduates, brand new graduates. We surveyed the class of 2021 and we said, okay, we can't do everyone. Who would you like the world to know about as representatives of your class? James there in the top left is first generation. His parents came from China, raised him in the Northeast. He's an incredible second generation success story, was a consultant with Accenture for 8 years, and then used FEMBA to reinvent himself, quit his job halfway through, did the second half of FEMBA just being a full-time student. And now he's with Flatiron Health. So he's now in health tech, and he went back to the East Coast where he grew up. Derek Cox is a single father raising his son, was an NFL football player for 7 seasons with 5 different teams, intercepted both Peyton Manning and Tom Brady during his career, and has reinvented himself to be a sports agent. Maxine Hupy was a professional dancer. For 10 years, she studied dance at Northwestern and came to LA and made a living as a dancer for a decade. She was on CeeLo Green's Las Vegas dance squad for a couple of years, and lived the vampire life. First show was at midnight, second show was at 3:30 in the morning. It was about a 10-person team. And then he said, I'm going on world tour. I can only take 4 of you. So she did a world tour with him. And she is now a senior consultant with Deloitte. So she transformed her career from dance into consulting. Ben Rovner in the bottom left, the day we record the interview, his brand new baby daughter is 5 days old. So he and his wife is getting a PhD in architecture from UCLA. While he was getting his MBA, he was a professional actor for a decade and then realized that's not what he wanted to do long-term. He's now a consultant with Boston Consulting Group. And his tagline was, he said, Dylan, when I got to UCLA, I didn't know what consulting was. And within the world of consulting, to get a seat at BCG, that's one of the best consulting firms there is. And he didn't even know what that was when he started FEMBA. Arun is an incredible man. He is the director of finance at LACMA and is a career enhancer and an incredible dancer. He dances this, I can't say it, it's a big, long Indian type of dance. And he has some incredible stories. He danced all the way through school. And, all these people, you don't know how they had 25 hours in their day. And then lastly, Megan Roberts was our student body president. Her father went to UCLA Anderson. Megan's at Nielsen IQ and was just the perfect student leader to get us through the pandemic. Roy, I don't know. This is just ridiculous. You're muted. I don't know. I'm just pausing.
I feel like I want to reapply.
Okay, I'm not hitting my timeline, men and women and people. I am so grateful for your listening. I'm just going to kind of skip forward a little bit. Somewhere I've got a Q&A slide. It's supposed to prompt me.
I find this all super interesting, and I work for UCLA, and I went to school here, and I didn't know half this stuff. So, I mean,
okay,
I'm good.
All right. Well,
I
just want to check in because I'm a history major, so I love this stuff. All right. Well, let me see. Okay, so Coach Wooden. If you've never heard of Coach Wooden, I didn't know who he was when I got here. Shame on me. He's one of the winningest coaches. Coach Val. I just had the honor of hearing Coach Val, the women's gymnastics coach who just retired. I heard her Friday a week ago. So UCLA just has a legacy in sports, and it's an incredible legacy, and it speaks to, I don't know, to me, it speaks to California, right? Like we work hard, but we also play hard. We're part of this amazing West Coast, future focused, what's next, right? Like everything new and cool comes from the West Coast, right? It comes from Seattle, it comes from Portland, and it's always come from California, from Berkeley, from UCLA, from NoCal, from SoCal. But Coach Wooden is just incredible. He won the NCAA championship 10 times, including 7 times in a row back in the 60s and 70s. And that would have been remarkable enough. But then he took the time to codify his thoughts, because for him, it wasn't coaching to win basketball. It was coaching young people to win in life. And it just so happened that the way he coached people to win in life also equated to winning on the field. And Coach Val, oh my God, I sat in the room last week listening to her, and I had not had an experience to cry within a mask before, because we still wear masks inside. And it was horrible. I was just crying. My nose was running. My mask turned into basically a big napkin. It was horrible. But to hear her tell the stories of her own growth and development as a coach, she used to coach the athlete, and then about halfway through her career she realized, that's not who I am. I'm going to coach the person first and the athlete second. And she tells the stories of going through the Larry Nassar sexual abuse scandal that rocked women's gymnastics, and the actual impact that had on her girls. She calls them girls. And one of her lead girls, who never talks, came to her. This is a woman who has one-word answers to everything. One of the best athletes on the team. She said, basically one of the best women I ever recruited in my 37-year career. And this girl came to her one day. Again, she uses the word girl, not me. And she said, I need to talk. And she closed the door and she talked for an hour and a half. And she had been abused by Dr. Nassar. And they called a team meeting. And this student athlete was very clear. She said, I'm not a victim. And Coach Val said, do you think you might have been victimized? And she said, maybe, but I'm not a victim. And she said, would you like to talk about it with the team? And she said, yes. And they had a team meeting. I won't be able to do this and keep it together. Coach Val said there was a different girl whose legs started shaking because it had happened to her also. And they had this team meeting that you would have never had if you were coaching athletes, that you would only have if you were coaching human beings that you wanted to win in life. And you knew that this was part of their journey to heal. And Coach Val had other coaches tell her that she was an idiot to introduce a distraction into the middle of the season. And she has this incredible perspective that when Senator Feinstein asked her, what do we do to fix women's gymnastics? She said, I didn't even know what to say to Senator Feinstein. And I thought about it a long time afterwards, and I realized it's not about fixing women's gymnastics. It's about fixing this winner take all culture that we've created in everything in our society. And remember that we're people first. And so that's the second half of her coaching journey, is when she realized that she was coaching little human beings first, who she wanted to have lives of significance and make a difference in the planet, who also happen to be athletes. So these are just like, this is why I get excited about UCLA, right? This is not what it was like in East Texas where I grew up, right? In my opinion, California already is the future. Can we do better? Do we have challenges? Oh yeah. Oh my God. Homelessness, the whole thing, right? Our prior dean, Judy Olian, used to say, the future is happening now in the top 10 cities in the world. And Los Angeles is one of those. And that's the amazing Silicon Beach and nanotech and crypto and all that on the good end of the spectrum. And on the challenging end of the spectrum, there are 50,000 people who sleep on the streets of this county every night. Right. So the bigness of the future of humanity is already happening right here, right now. And this is the kind of place where people are dealing with that. Judy, I love the way she used to say, she said, I want our graduates to lead lives of significance. It's not just, you have great analytical quant skills. Can you run a regression? Can you balance a budget? Right. Yes, of course, that's the competency set of a business degree. But on top of that, what is that degree in service of? Ultimately, what are you giving back to the world? We want our graduates to lead lives of significance. So, to get really all the way down to it, in the fall of 2020, we had our biggest female class ever in FEMBA. We had the most African-American, most Hispanic students we've ever had. Here's, again, I'll give you this link. We had a Voice of FEMBA. We have about 50 recordings of nominees from the class that entered in 2020, the COVID intake. Sophia Santos is one. She applied to FEMBA without a job. And my team was like, how can we admit her? She doesn't have a job. I said, look at her resume. She's going to get a job. She had been caring for a sick family member and had to leave the workforce for a bit. And she got a job the summer. We admitted her over the summer, said, hey, Ann, please get a job, because it's the fully employed MBA. And she was working for Amazon when she walked in the door. I saw her yesterday. And she said, Dylan. I'm like, oh my God. And I met her yesterday for the first time. I've known her because we talked all summer in the summer of 20. I've known her by video and phone call, but I met her in 3 dimensions yesterday. And she said, oh, I left Amazon. I'm like, oh my God, is everything okay? She, oh, no. I went to Apple. So she's already done a career switch, and she's only like 14 months into the program. Here's we had a drive time for Black History Month. Jermaine, Jairo, and Derek that I introduced a minute ago. I'll give you this link. We had a drive time where they kicked me off. I just did the intro, and then it was 5 incredible female alumni, and they do some really great stuff. I mean, you don't need to just be a woman to benefit from listening to them. They do imposter syndrome. They do salary negotiation. There's some gems in here. And Kathy is Kathy in the bottom left. She's the VP of Content Analytics and Strategy at MGM. Ramin has got a big job in Petro. Dominique Cagle, the top right person. There's a full-length drive time with her also. She has a PhD, was a mother of 2, commuted from Central Valley for the whole time she was in FEMBA, and then got a brand new job at Genentech up in the Bay Area. Samantha and Darcy both have brand new jobs. I actually have Darcy's new title. They both reinvented their careers while they were here. And Sam and Darcy helped me for about 15 months running the podcast. So the point, I was supposed to get this done in 20 minutes. It's 46 minutes. So much for my timeline. The point is that UCLA has made history for 102 years. The point, you can trust UCLA for the next 102 years, right? We're not going anywhere, right? We've been diverse since a long time ago. And will we strive to get better? Yes. But have we already established a proven track record for a century that this is a topic that's in our bones, it's baked into our DNA? Yes. The point, UCLA plus you equals your story, only hopefully better. So, so much for 20 minutes. Q&A number 1. All right, Roy.
I don't know if we've allocated enough days, but this is good. So yes, we're pausing for a second. Are there any questions that have come up from this first section? Yeah, Lee.
I have a question. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dylan, for that incredible presentation. I'm glad it went as long as it did because it was captivating. So I'm loving your think fearlessly, share success, and drive change tagline. And I think like you're going to, in your next section, touch a little bit more on how like we as FEMBA students can lift ourselves up. But can you talk a little bit more about like what the program itself does to drive that kind of catalytic change that you were describing, and the posture change and the way that FEMBA students present themselves in the world?
Let me see if I can be brief, and maybe I'd invite Carissa and Roy also, just to give you a break from hearing me. But I like the three pillars. We worked very diligently. It was about an 18-month marketing. We surveyed current students, alumni, the business community, our faculty, our staff, to come up with those three catchphrases. I like to think kind of like chakras. I like to think head, heart, and gut. That think fearlessly is graduate school, right? You take a lot of midterms, you take a lot of finals. So you literally put yourself through the paces of a master's degree in business. So intellectually, you know, it all starts, I think, intellectually, but it's more than just an intellectual exercise. So in terms of how it happens, I think it starts by saying, I'm willing to go to grad school, because grad school, again, is a very volition. It's by choice. Many people go to undergrad on autopilot, but I choose to go to grad school. So there's that. I opt in and I'm challenging myself. So there's something about just being willing to challenge oneself that stretches oneself. So that's think fearlessly. Share success to me is heart. And to me, it's, we had a FEMBA council leader a few years ago who had a tagline, handshakes to hugs. And what he was trying to say was, at orientation, at leadership foundations, it's all like, you know, everybody's kind of trying to put on their best behavior and make a good first impression. And, you know, very professional. Hi, my name is Dylan and I'm focusing on finance. And oh, hi, my name is Sam and I'm focusing on real estate. But when you fast forward to commencement, nobody's handshaking anymore. Everybody's blubbering all over themselves. And what started as kind of professional has become very personal, because you just get to know each other, because it's that common challenge. So head, heart. So think fearlessly, share success. I go to grad school. I make human connections with a cohort of amazing people. And then the third is gut. And that's drive change. And that's the kind of stand up straight thing. In my experience, I had imposter syndrome even as a white male from the South. When I got to Chicago, I was the youngest of 550 people. I was a history major. I had a twang. I said some stuff that you say in my culture that you don't say, right? Like Chicago was honestly not I was a kind of a big fish at Texas A&M. And that was not my experience. At Chicago, I felt shorter. I felt like everyone's younger brother. And I just felt like they had seen this before and I had not. And I hung in there. And at some point in my observation, it you know, and it's different for everybody. It's not like first quarter. It's like halfway through or towards the end, or maybe even after you graduate. But you kind of become an MBA. And it's the letters on the resume, but it's this kind of confident worldview that I can respectfully raise my hand and say, excuse me, world, I have a suggestion. And the combination of my own confidence and my credibility, people will give you a shot. And you kind of have to own it, but it's baked into the journey. I can't do a short answer, save my life. Okay, Carissa, how would you answer that very good question? Like, what is it about UCLA that helps people have a transformative experience as you've experienced it? And please introduce everybody. I don't know if everybody's met you already or not. Do they know what year you are? What do you do?
So I'm actually an applicant right now. I was part of the, I was watching the program this week and someone shared the backdrop. So I look like I'm part of
Oh, okay, because we had 900 students and I was about to meet you.
apartment's
Okay,
kind of
I'm sorry.
messy
When
right now.
Roy said, oh, hi, Carissa, I thought you were one of our volunteers because Roy and
Yeah,
I were talking about
thanks for
volunteers. All right, Carissa, I take
Yeah,
you
no,
off
we-
the spot. I apologize. Thank
yeah,
you for
no.
doing the banner. That's very, very festive. And
Yeah.
you totally.
Carissa, you've been on other webinars, right? That I've been on, yeah.
Yeah, I've been on webinars, and I've spent the last few months doing research though into the program, seeing if the community is kind of the right fit for me. And I will say every single student or alumni I've spoken to has really, really enforced that sharing success value. Everybody says the community is amazing, and I really feel like it's the best school that I've researched in California.
Yeah, and I would probably just echo Chris's point is I have also an Amazon Echo on my desk. So every time I say that, I need to cancel.
We're not alone anymore.
I have to stop saying that word. To answer your question, Lee, I would just add on. It is so, I'll use Dylan's words, baked into our DNA that the admissions team explicitly looks for those qualities. So by the time you write your application, do your application, really think about our culture and look at how we're, because Chris is right. It's so integral to who we are at Anderson that we look for that explicitly. We're not thinking that it's well developed necessarily, but there's already formational moments that suggest that by the time you get here and you're surrounded by other people who have that same mindset, it will only enhance your experience and their experience. We're looking for contributors, not, folks who are just taking an MBA and walking away and we won't see them again. So if you can really communicate a net contribution, to our community, we're happy to have you. Yeah. So fantastic. I know, Nancy, you had a question, and then I know Dylan has the next he has 5 minutes to cover. So Nancy, what's your question?
Yeah, I was just curious about the data. I think it was all UCLA wide and then UC wide, right? I wondered if there was any diversity data of any kind, whether it be, ethnicity, race, sexual orientation, just only for Anderson.
And with Anderson, we have 5 different programs. So yes, we have all that. Do you want Anderson overall? I probably don't know because it's usually like the full-time, the part-time.
Okay, that's awesome if it's broken down. Well, FEMBA would be my most highest interest.
Sure. So the numbers I told you, we set all kinds of records with the class that entered a year ago, and then we kind of came back to earth. But we had our most ever women, we had our most ever African-American, and our most ever Hispanic students entering the class a year ago. I'm trying to think, do I have a chart on that, Roy?
I have a 24 class profile, and it looks like right now.
Oh yeah, you can share screen too. Is that the one on the website?
Yeah, this is the one that I'm using. I think it's from the website, but this is the one I'm using for our info sessions. And right now we have 35% women, 13% who are underrepresented groups. So this is our most recent class profile. This is not necessarily the entire FEMBA program because there's 3 sections, so there's a class of, 23 and 22 that are not represented here, but it's a work in progress. I'm not going to pretend that we've, quite made it. That's why it's really important that we have spaces like this to talk about that. This is our opportunity to engage very talented folks like yourselves and have you consider Anderson. We're probably in better shape than most other top 10s because of our explicit and extensive work in recruitment, but like anything else, we can do better. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. This is helpful. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Yeah, no problem, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy. And just because when we talk about populations that we want to explicitly be attractive to, it's definitely underrepresented groups. We also talk about military. So it's a big theme of the school that veterans feel safe and have a place to go. And then our LGBTQ plus community, I don't really think we exactly measure that quite the same way because it's a piece of data that people can choose to share or not share. So, I mean, we do, yeah.
We have as a member of the LGBTQ plus community and as a former board member for Out at Anderson, I'd say we have a solid, small but mighty LGBTQ community. So if that's something that's of interest to you, as with anything, we're such an open book. Reach out to any of the identity clubs out there. Their leadership is more than happy to take calls. Carissa gave that perfect example. Every alum, every student you reach out to, I would be shocked that they wouldn't respond back. I mean, I think that we've gotten to this point where when I just say, hey, just go to that identity club and introduce yourself. I've always appreciated how quickly and how thoroughly our students respond to questions about their experience. Yeah. And we also, FEMBA hosts what's called Community Spotlight, which is an opportunity for our different clubs, leadership and members to participate in recruitment outreach. And they actually go through a panel with me and they spend about 20 minutes just kind of talking about their experiences at Anderson, good and bad. And then they spend the remaining like 30 minutes in open air, conversation with folks. And we have our one with BBSA, the African American, the Black Student Business Association, and that's going to be on December 1. So if you haven't received an invitation to join that, please feel free to send me an email. I'm happy to send you that invitation. Yeah, great. So Dylan, I think we have 2 minutes. Do you want to go ahead and move through the remainder of your slide? I know Chris is just warming up, so I don't think he would be opposed to giving up some of his, precious time for the second half, because I'm kind of excited now to see what else you have in store for us.
Well, let me just check in with Chris. Hey, Chris, good morning. How are you? Oh, he's not.
I'm well. Sorry, I was trying to find my unmute button. How's everybody doing?
We are well. We're well. We are a small but mighty team this morning. So, and as your verbally challenged peer, Dylan, often has, I have not hit my timeline at all. So I'm only about halfway through, but I want to give you all the space that you want for, kind of walking people directly through the application. So I just want to check, did you want the full hour, or could I maybe carve out like 5 or 10 minutes?
Yeah, no, go ahead. Keep going. I'll be listening in and I'll chime in when you guys are wrapped up. That's all good.
Okay. Okay. And Roy, so
Yeah.
10 minutes. All right. So here we go. All right. So the second half of what I wanted to just share, and I'll share it as quickly as I can. The point, this is your one and only wild and precious life. Can we help you write your best story? Right? Each of us is the hero in our own life story. And my claim, my assertion is that UCLA is a trusted partner for you to write your best career story, that you will receive the intellectual knowledge, you will build the network, and you will get the confidence to be a bigger, better version of yourself. So this is the why FEMBA, you plus UCLA. Before we did UCLA plus you, and now I just want to flip it. This is a big investment. The input is time, money, and effort, right? This is a $135,000 degree. It is not cheap. It takes about 15 to 20 hours a week for those 9 quarters, and a lot of work, a lot of reading, a lot of studying, a lot of Google Hangouts and Zoom calls, a lot of driving to Westwood. So that's the input, but the output is the education, the network, the experience, right? You're better informed. Your critical thinking skills have greatly expanded your ability to articulate your point of view, your network. You know more influential people than you knew before, faculty, staff, student, and alum, and you've got the experience under your belt and the confidence that goes with it, to Lee's question. And that's the output. So why should you make a big investment in you? And we won't do it in the chat, right? You're already successful. Nobody's here on a Saturday morning who doesn't already have an education, have something going in their career, and also is looking forward to what's next. So, If you're already successful, why not just sleep in on Saturday morning? So, you know, this is you. No UCLA, right? You're going to have a good life. That's my assertion. I'll never know. I've never met you in person, but there are a lot of people in LA, and there's only a few of us here together on Saturday morning. And my assertion is you're educated, you're dialed in, you're aware of the value of graduate school, and you're curious. So this is you without UCLA. And action graphic, here it comes. Ta-da. I know it's a jaw dropper. That's you with UCLA, right? But look at the timeline on the bottom. Those are decades, right? 20, 31, 41, 51, 61, 71, 81. Now, why would I make a 60-year timeline? We're all going to live to be 110, right? If you take care of your body, we live in a technologically miraculous age where all the little things that wear out can wear out, but you can keep going because they can all be replaced. So we're all of us going to live decades longer than our grandparents ever even imagined living. So my assertion is that trajectory is more important than position. You know, at any given moment, you could be having a good year, and 12 months from now, you could be having a bad year. You know, there's little ups and downs in life, but your long-term trajectory, that's what this morning is about. Because if you raise that trajectory just 1 degree, if you get inspired to be a bigger version of yourself, and I've only ever been aiming to be a manager, but you know what? Maybe I want to aim at it being a director, or I've only ever aimed at being a director. I maybe want to aim at being a VP. If you change your trajectory and then you live into that and you surround yourself with an education and with a peer group and with confidence to stick with it, you can totally transform the long-term reality of your life. That's what gets me out of bed. Better than ROI, and our ROI is good. I told you plus 49%, plus 55%, but better than a great salary result is changing the trajectory. I was this little guy from East Texas, and I just didn't want my life to be limited to the opportunity set of the town I grew up in. And I put on my big boy pants and went to Chicago, big scary experience for me, and challenged myself with an organization that was trustworthy. The University of Chicago was a trustworthy school, just like UCLA is a trustworthy partner. So this is Think in the Next. Hit it quickly. The 3 pillars: think fearlessly, share success, drive change. I've alluded to that. Think fearlessly, you will make more money, right? Here it is. 2 years ago, the salary bumped up 49. During COVID, bumped up 55. This is an older data point. Business Week surveyed graduates 5 to 8 years after, found that their salary went up 137%. So this was like people who had graduated 5 to 7 years before 2015, and 5 to 7 years later, their salary was up that much. You know, you can do this later, but get your calculator. You know, take your current salary, multiply it by 1.55 or 1.49. That's the range that people's salaries bump up during school, or multiply by 2.37 to think where you might be a decade from now, right? It's a 2.5-year program, 5 to 7 years later, roughly a decade. So if an average student walks in making 100,000, which is kind of our average the last couple of years, 10 years later, that same person's going to be making about 237,000, right? So you're going to go from being an individual contributor to a manager to a director, if you're kind of in the typical corporate trajectory, or if you're an entrepreneur, you're an owner and you're making your own business. So that's Think Fearlessly, Share Success. This is the culture question. You know, when's the best time to look for a job? While you have a job, right? Why is that? Because you're in the driver's seat. FEMBA's begin the program with a job that's too good to quit. I told you Sophia didn't have a job, but she got one before she started with Amazon. Now she's already on to Apple. These are some of the companies that employ our students: Accenture, B of A, Baxter, Boeing, Chevron, Cisco, Disney, Google, Intel, McMaster-Carr, MGM, Nestle, Northrop, Qualcomm, Sony, all the branches of the military, UCLA itself, Warner Brothers, Yahoo. The vast majority of FEMBAs will be the only person from their firm. 90% of employment in LA County is with a firm that has 100 or fewer employees. We are one of the entrepreneurial meccas in the world. And you'll meet people who work for really cool companies that you've just never heard of. And you'll hire each other. This is a great story we love. There was a guy named John, worked for Boeing, was going to be a Boeing lifer. Boeing is our lifetime most represented employer. And he had a classmate who was working with Riot Games over in Santa Monica and said, John, come try this out. John's like, I'm not looking for a job. He said, just talk to the HR director. He did. He went to Riot. He loved it. He was there 2 years. And then he left Riot and got a totally new career in human resources. So his life transformed, not by going to our dedicated career services team, which should have been on our features list, because we have a dedicated career services team that's just focused on FEMBA. That's one of our attributes. I'm sorry I left it off the list earlier. But he didn't even go to our career services team. He transformed his entire career just out of networking with his classmates. This is one of our entrepreneurial success stories. Brian Thomas created a $100 million startup called Clutter. If you ever see those teal colored vans, that was a FEMBA started program. Chris and I drove over to the headquarters in Culver City a couple of years ago and interviewed Brian and recorded that episode. We have married student podcasts, Dr. Naseem Afsar, Mark Lee. She was the chief health officer for UCLA Health. Mark is an entertainment guy. Both had multiple children, were actively parenting their kids and going to school and maintaining a career. You can hear theirs. And again, I'll send all these links at the end. If you're single, this was my sociology class at Texas A&M. What's the number one factor on who you're going to marry? It's not what you think it is. It's not religion. It's not ethnicity. It's proximity. And this is probably different with digital dating apps, but it's like if you want to meet somebody great, be proximate to great people. And whatever your flavor, tall, short, we got every kind of human being at UCLA and not just at Anderson, right? You can go to our gym, which is a 5-minute walk from where you park. It's 5 minutes to Anderson this way, and it's 5 minutes to the Wooden Athletic Center there, way better than Equinox, right? And you put on your Anderson swag and you just meet people. Incredible opportunity. Best way to catch a fish is go where the fish are. And then lastly, drive change, the confidence. We surveyed our alumni a couple of years ago. What do you miss most? And what the alumni miss most is each other. Like a lot of our students live further than 20 miles away and they end up commuting together. So when you drive to class, you're talking about the homework, but when you drive home from class, you're talking about each other's lives. It starts with a handshake and it ends with a hug. This whole thing is transformative. And if you want to, there's that proverb, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go together. And the best way to have a long and fruitful career is to surround yourself with great people, because life will throw curveballs at us. We have bad years and you need a network to help you get through those bad years. And this is a way to build a network, a professional network that will keep you dialed into opportunity for decades to come. You want to see a video or do we have time for that, Roy? Oh, I know. I asked for 10 minutes. It's been 10. I got this killer video. Oh my gosh. And it's got all these people. And when they made the video 8 years ago and who they are now. Q&A number 2. All right. Well, I'm out of time. Anyway, I'm just going to teach you with that video. You go on YouTube and Google UCLA, the most interesting MBA in the world. And it's a spoof on the Tecate beer commercial. And you'll see all these people are current students. And when we send you the link, Anastasia Ali is now a VP at Disney. Melissa is a business manager at Dole. Ryan is a director of HR at PayPal. You can see these are the actual actors who are all current students who made this video 7 years ago. They were all in the class of 2014. And they are out there making big stuff happen, is the point of that. So we won't do my Q&A. Chris is probably going to talk about this. We have 2 more round deadlines. These are the links for the summer spotlight. FEMBA is basically 1,000 days to reinvent yourself. If you get 0.1% better every day for 1,000 days, you'll be 100% better. And that doesn't count compounding. Trajectory beats position. Let us help write your story. Thank you.
Dylan, that was a solid 10 minutes. I have to say that was very impressive. It's a little bit of a blur, which the last 6 slides. Did you promise us that we'll get links to this?
Yeah.
If you want to drop them in the chat, that would be fantastic.
I would, but look at this. It's 4 pages of links. So it doesn't even fit in the chat. So these are all the drive times. These are the summer spotlights. So I can PDF this to everyone. I mean, Roy and I can work, but we'll get
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
to
we'll
you.
figure it out.
But
We'll-
it doesn't,
we'll figure
it doesn't actually even fit. Here's the, if UCLA were just 100 students.
As you can see, we have much to offer. I don't even know what bottom line summary statement I can make to transition us to Chris, because this is, it may feel a little overwhelming, but I think that's the point, right? Is that once you plug into our network, once you join our community, that 27 months will fly by. I know as a FEMBA student, when I signed on the dotted line, I thought to myself, I don't remember the last time I made such a long commitment of time and money in one place. And I was a little hesitant about making such a commitment, not knowing where I'll be 27 months from now or 3 years from now. And when I graduated in 2019, it shocked me how fast it went, both time and the money. So I have to say it's worth every penny. It's worth the experience. And I tell Dylan and Chris the same thing. You know, in the end, in recruitment, we're also salespeople. I'm not going to pretend, that's not what admissions is. We're trying to sell a product. I don't know any product that is at this price point that has almost 100% customer satisfaction. And I'm challenging anyone on this call to find me an alum that regret making such a huge investment in themselves, because that's what blew my mind away, was that anyone you spoke to can only say good things about this. And there's not many things that I can say reach this caliber, right, in our lives. And to let that opportunity pass would be probably more of a regret than investing in yourself. So with that said, Chris is going to get us the steps that it will take us to get into Anderson. So Chris, I'm going to hand it over to you, our Director of Operations. And thank you, Dylan, again, for doing this. Appreciate you.
I feel like this is a timeshare presentation, and now I'm like, all right, now that you're sold, it's time. Give me your credit cards. Let's go.
Let me make you co-host so that you can share. 1 second. Okay. And then Dylan, you can get back to your family. I know.
Oh no, I'm gonna hang
You
out.
okay?
Yeah, my younger boy is off getting his COVID shot, and my older boy is still in bed. So there's no.
Okay. Okay.
And I will, while Chris is getting started, I'll go ahead and post those links in. It takes a couple posts, but I'll put them in, and then we can, if we want to send them later, but I'll put the links in.
Oh, that's even better. Thank you so much, Dylan. All right, Chris, you're on.
Oh, it's time to go. Here we go. All right, where do I go here? All right, we good? You guys can see this?
Looks
Sweet.
good, Chris, and we can hear you well.
I just want to make sure you can see my UCR logo too. All right, we're good. We're ready.
I was going to try to ignore that part, but yes, we see the UCR logo as well.
Hey, we're teaching pride. I luckily I was able to go to a UC. It was not UCLA. You'll see that coming up here. So again, my name is Chris Thompson. Thanks, Roy, for the introduction. And it's really cool to have these back-to-back, these presentations. Usually the idea is that, I'm the last webinar you should be at, not the first. Most of these webinars that I do throughout the year, people have already really made up their minds that UCLA Anderson FEMBA program is where they want to be. And I do my best to help people get there with the information I share. So again, this is like a very fast timeshare version of it, where I'm not expecting you guys all to want to be here just yet. If you do after 45 or an hour with Dylan, I'm not surprised, but it's not definitely, it doesn't have to be the case. So that being said, though, at some point you need to apply to a program. If you choose to apply to our program, this presentation would help you have your best foot forward. This is my 7th season here, and I'm excited to share some information with you, and I'll share my background here in a bit. So there are three main goals that I have for this presentation. It's just to, and I'm going to go through it pretty fast too, but you know, I usually have a little bit more time, but for the most part, if you guys have questions along the way, it's a small group, we can kind of break off whenever you guys want. I'm going to ask for some participation either way. So I want to kind of go through the elements of the application, share some tips and advice, and hopefully answer some questions as well. So we do have a smaller group, so I just kind of, we can use the chat if you guys want, but where are you guys from right now? Where's everybody logging in from?
I'm in Culver City.
Culver City, right next to Dillon, Santa Monica. So it looks like most people are in California. Let's see, LA, San Jose. Okay, we got somebody up in the Bay. Nice. Highland Park. Is that LA still? I think it is, right?
Yeah, between Pasadena and Eagle Rock.
Okay, cool. I'm in Mar Vista right now, so yeah, not too far from Culver City. And then if we can throw our colleges in there, that would be great. Where did everybody go to undergrad? UCLA, we got somebody, might be a double Bruin. Cal, Berkeley, yep. Roy went to so many colleges. He went to every college that everybody's listed so far. So, oh, nice, Pepperdine. So yeah, we got some people. Arizona State, okay. Got some UCs in there. I was looking for a UCR, but I don't see it. It's all right. It's okay. And then why don't we share two more things? Your major and what industry you're in right now. Ooh, rhetoric. Come on, guys. There's participation points. Nice. Clean tech. Oh, what school was that, Noel? With clean tech? Let me see if I can see if you chimed in earlier with your school. Pepperdine. Okay. Oh, you work in clean tech. Nice. You were efficient with your chat. I get that. Okay. Interesting stuff. See, what I always like to point out, even in this small group, but you know, in our bigger groups, it's just like you can quickly see the diversity that Dylan was mentioning. And you know, I look at diversity as, you know, every type of aspect. You know, the questions I asked, obviously, you know, we're talking about diversity in other ways as well. But you can quickly see, even just having a webinar and even just having events like this, what we attract. It really is a model of what our student body looks like as well. So you can really see that, you know, study groups and classes and the entire campus, you're going to see this type of mix. You're going to see this type of diversity quickly, you know. So it is something that isn't always the case. I can tell you that schools in different cities across the country, you're not going to always see this diversity. I think that's one of the really cool things about UCLA and being in LA and just having that opportunity to, you know, meet that many different people. So thank you guys for sharing that. All right, so this is very important. You know, I do think that sometimes we get a little bit lost in an application, and we're, you know, a lot of my advice is usually around having people not get so stuck up on what the right answer is, right? Like, what is the best applicant and what are we looking for? What are you looking for? You know, and that's really what I want to do, is turn the tables for you guys and for you all to just say, hey, whether I do this or not, I'm being asked to apply if I want to be here. And so what does that mean? Why are we asking you to apply? Why do we have essay questions? Why do we have these things? And if you go through the process of answering our questions, it should actually stump you for a while, and at least in the beginning. And when we're asking you what you can bring to the table and why do you want this MBA, and give us your transcripts and take these exams and do all these things, why? You know, and the fact is that doing those things should be valuable. Because even if you don't come, you went through an experience to apply. It's not just like a 10-minute thing, right? It's definitely a few week thing at the fastest. I've seen some people turn it around fast, but most people are taking months for this process, and some people take years, right? So years, right? To kind of go through the point where they're really ready to apply. So if you're thinking about that, you know, usually I ask some people why they would think that should be valuable. If anybody has an answer now, feel free to unmute and chime in if you are courageous enough to tell me why you think it's valuable just to even apply.
I think the retrospective of just looking at your life and going down the old channels and, geez, pulling your GPA from the past or whatever. I mean, it's definitely getting you, as you said, Dylan, point in time, look at where your life is, and that can't be anything but helpful.
Perfect. Yes, we are asking you to go down memory lane, and we're asking you to look in the crystal ball, right? So it's both. So great. Yes, thank you, Noel. All right, cool. I actually got the chat up now, which I usually can't do. I mean, the video screen, so I think I can see everybody too. So this is cool. All right, so again, this is kind of the memory lane analogy that I just said. So you're really being asked to know or to explore where you've been, where you are, and where you're going, right? So it's past, present, future. So that really is your story, and there's not much more to it as far as the nuts and bolts of it. But what your job is to expand and basically get that clear. And it is kind of like that song, you know, free your mind and the rest will follow, but it's get it clear and the rest will follow. Because if you try to start anywhere else but with you, you're starting in the wrong spot, you know? So that's what I'm basically saying. So again, not worried about what our profile looks like, not worried about what the average GMAT is, not worry about how many years experience you have, like throw all that stuff out the window, because one, you can't change that stuff. So it's like, why care? And then two, how is that helping you? It's not helping you. And the fact is that you just saw that your GPAs and your majors, so you're gonna have a different starting place than everyone else. So it doesn't matter. And I say that a lot, and I say that as it is your advantage that it does not matter, you know? So there are very few people that I interact with where I'm like, oh no, you should not be talking to me. You should not be considering this. Because at the end of the day, there's such a wide net of people who could make this work. It just comes down to, you know, the things that I'll go over, the things that Dylan's talking about. If these things excite you, you know, obviously money is a thing and people want to make more money, but that's not exactly, I don't think, the exact motivator for why people are asking for the torture of FEMBA. FEMBA is torture, right? It's keeping you're not taking anything off your plate. Your plate is not getting any bigger, right? Plate is like time, let's say. You're stacking it up. You're at the buffet and you're like putting it all on the plate and trying to hold that plate together for a few years, right? So it is in a funny way, it is a little torture, but the awards of it will show themselves. And you know, a lot of it is, if you're working out, like the only way to really get bigger is to rip your muscles, right? And then they grow back bigger. So if you think about that, like really what FEMBA is doing is stretching you and ripping you, and then you're growing back stronger, you know? So if anyone works out, that's kind of how it works. Looks like that might make sense. I try to do some analogies so you have a little bit of sense. One, to try to keep you guys excited and not watch the YouTube videos that Dylan sent while I'm presenting, but the other to just really try to connect this stuff. So I want to kind of go over an example. You know, we like to, we're humble. We like to self-deprecate here. I know Dylan does, I do too. So I'm going to go self-deprecate for a few minutes. Don't mind me. And I'm going to use myself as an example on how to build your story. We're going to use a framework of 3 past descriptors, 3 present, and 3 future. So bear with me as I use my example, and I'll tell you why it's definitely very high chances that everybody's going to have a better format of an example than I did for FEMBA. Because if you go back to 2006, this is when I graduated from these 3 letters, and I was a young, ambitious fool, and I thought I was never going back to school. So in June of 2006, I graduated with the BA in econ, business econ from UC Riverside. And my good old father said, well, what are you going to do? And at that point, my past was, well, in the past, I was a high school grad. I thought I was good at math. I enjoyed sports. really neat stuff. You all at this stage should have a past that has college in it, at least, maybe a few years of work experience already in your past, right? My past at that time was that. My present at that time was I was a fresh UCR grad. I literally had no work experience, and I started picking up liking to make music. Again, these 6 descriptors, I really would bet money that you all have better descriptors than I do, as far as you're farther along than I was, right? And that just means that you have more to add to a conversation. You have more to bring to the table. And that's a lot of what we really want you to understand is we want a self-awareness of what you can bring to the table here at FEMBA and at Anderson. And it's kind of like, not to say brag time, but a lot of people are going to either fall on the side of they're very confident or they need more confidence. And I think that when I talk with people, more people need a little bit of a lift up and a little bit of an encouragement to be more braggy than people need to be knocked down. I think less people need to be knocked down a little bit and humbled. More people need a little, hey, talk about yourself a little bit more. Tell me more about what you do in your job. Tell me, brag a little bit about your accomplishments, right? So this is your time to kind of frame those things, right? And then you can expand on these. So my future, and if we're looking at this in the lens of like, this is to help you tell your story. This is to help you talk about yourself. This is to help you write your essays, right? So for my future, which were what my goal was, right? To apply to the MBA program I applied to, which is what I'm alluding to that I didn't exactly say. So I actually ended up in the time from June 2006 to August 2006, I went from I'm never going back to school to I took the GMAT twice and I'm applying to get my MBA with 0 years of work experience. And I went and did that during that summer based on one strong conversation for my dad, and he went to an open house at UC Riverside's Palm Desert campus, where I'm from, the Coachella Valley. And he said, yeah, since you already moved back home, why don't you go to this school? And they just opened, and I was a part of the second class, and I was admitted. I will tell you that UCR wasn't exactly pressuring me to have all this figured out, right? They weren't having workshops on preparing your best application. They were like, hey, you have your degree, looks like you want to be here, you're from the desert, you went to UCR, we'll take you. I was the outlier. I was 15 years on average younger than my classmates, and this was more of a older working student program, and it was a part-time MBA, but it was almost full-time. People were working full-time, and then we're going during night school. So it was like FEMBA, but full-time. And so it was very rare. We had a small class, but the idea was that people could take like a little bit of an altered schedule. And it was like take one day off of work or like leave early one day. So we went like from 2 to 8 or something on like a Thursday or a Friday. And then we went from like 6 to 9 on one other day a week. And we were able to pack in 12 units a quarter. So it was, yeah. And people were working full time. And at that time, I just picked up a part-time job working for my dad's accounting office, but I'm glad I didn't have a full-time job. I don't know how they did it. But anyways, my point is that in my application, I had to talk about what my goals were. And at that time, I promise you, my goals were really, I needed someone like me to help me. And I didn't have somebody. And that's what I'm trying to do for you all, whether you apply this year or later. At that point, I said I wanted to learn how to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to begin my professional career with an MBA. And that was kind of all I had, and they took me, and that experience was rough for a while because I really was in these classes, and I understood how to study. I understood how to, certain topics, accounting, econ, but I had no experience to bring to the table, to bring to the conversation. And I felt inadequate, right? So we don't want you to feel inadequate here at FEMBA. We don't want you to be in class feeling like you don't belong. So Dylan talks about it. Sometimes we have certain workshops where we talk about the imposter syndrome, right? Like, am I an imposter? Am I really not worthy of being here? And without deprecating anymore, I definitely had to just kind of put on my big boy pants, as Dylan says sometimes, and just go into it and say, I've got to come with my what I am. And what I was I was a pretty good student. And soon enough, people that hadn't been to school for so long they were kind of asking me to study with them, right? Because they were like, whoa, you're doing pretty good on these tests, and I haven't taken tests for 15 years. And I said, yeah, you're doing pretty good at your job. Like, tell me more about that, right? And then the exchanges start to happen, right? So I think that's why there is no perfect applicant. There is no perfect student, but you will be conceding somewhere and you will be stronger in somewhere else, right? So your job here with these descriptors, to kind of make this go full circle, is to talk about these things that you're going to bring to the table and these descriptors. And again, I would beg to differ that you guys all will be in a better position than I was, because if I use this to apply to FEMBA, I think Roy and Dylan, if they were reading my application, I think they would say, Chris, you need a little bit more time. You think you need a few years of work experience for FEMBA, and maybe even for full time, right? But if this looks like, your past is college, your present is your career, and your future is, the being a CEO, or starting your own company, or advancing in your job, or switching careers, that to me is where most people should be at, right? Your future should be building on your career, not starting your career with FEMBA, basically. So anyways, that's why I self-deprecate a little bit. I will go again and complete the full circle. I'm proud of being a UCR grad, a double Highlander, which I don't think I've ever said it like that. But it all worked out, right? I've been at UCLA Anderson for 7 years. I have a great job. I get to really help people. I work for a top 5 university in the country for our program. I'm proud of that, right? So I don't think that would have happened without my MBA. So if you ask me, did it all work out? Yeah, it might have just taken a little longer, might have been a little bit more painful, right? So I hope you all don't have as much pain as I did going through that process. And I'm glad that I can share and try to help some people get that path figured out, and have somebody to talk to. So now I'm going to kind of zoom through some things. Now that you have that figured out, I usually take some time and have you all do that. But in the interest of time, I spent enough time on that slide for you guys to get the point. And I think you all should take some time and do that exercise when you get some time. Okay. So we do read holistically. And I think that, like, you can see the kind of tenor that I'm speaking with and the tone. We really don't want to take a stance of what the ideal applicant needs to look like. And I promise you that is in your best interest. So holistically really just means that, not one thing is going to get you admitted. You're not just going to be able to take a test and get a perfect score, or you're not just going to be able to have a 4.0 GPA. Like, not one thing is just going to be like, yep, you're in. But on the flip side, not one thing is usually going to get you out either, right? So having that 2.9 GPA, or having a 620 GMAT is not going to be like, oh, you're out of here, you have a 620. Oh, you only have 3 years of work experience. It's not going to work. Like, there are ways you can balance that. And I think you can start to get what I'm saying as I'm going through this, that everything is going to check out. There isn't a trap door, right? There isn't much black and white to where this is good, this is bad, right? There is a lot of gray, and that is always in your interest, right? So it's kind of like stepping into this knowing that, you can be who you are. And as long as you go through what I'm telling you, you will have your best chance, right? Of taking your honest approach at being you and representing you in your application. So you will be getting reviewed by alumni and staff read, a director read, and a faculty committee vote, So you have 3 layers of a review. Again, not one person is going to get you in, not one person is going to get you out, right? So you're not going to be, it's not the luck of the draw about who you get. We have a high integrity process here. As a director of admissions operations, I'm highly involved in this entire process. So I can tell you that I am very proud of kind of the work we do. And my team, we do our best to really stay consistent. And as far as the way we counsel and the way we review, and we do our best to really have a solid level of understanding of what the outcomes that we want are, right? We want people to come to UCLA, be successful, be able to achieve success, and be able to contribute and get something from their education. So that's what we're assessing. Here we go. Will you succeed? These are the 2 questions we ask. What's your spark? A lot of this stuff is going to be like what Dylan was talking about, the what's your spark stuff, what's your story? And, so if we start, it's really some qualitative mixed with quantitative. The quantitative, the static stuff is really the academic stuff, right? It's going to be there. It's going to be numbers, and you're going to have grades. You're going to have classes you took. You're going to have things that just won't change, right? Your transcripts, these test scores, maybe some courses, right? So this is the stuff that you have to just submit, and deal with it, right? Whether it's good, bad, or ugly, right? You have to submit this stuff. We need this if you're going to apply. So we're going to be looking at, every element of your transcripts. We're going to be asking you for unofficial and official transcripts. I don't want to waste too much time on this stuff right now, but for the most part, yeah, this is part of the application. And I get into a little bit more, but I'll keep going so I can have some Q&A time. So you do get to choose between 3 exams right now. The 3rd exam is really available for people that have 8 years or more of experience as of the fall that you're starting. So next fall, if you're applying this year, that's the executive assessment. It is designed for people that basically are more senior and possibly could be applying to executive MBA programs. Otherwise, you're going to be looking at the GRE or GMAT. And if you were educated abroad, I'm not sure if anyone was, but if you were, you would have to take a language exam unless you had a master's degree. When to retake the GMAT, GRE, or EA, it really just, it depends if you feel like you really didn't do so well, or just kind of stumbled a little bit, or had a hard experience. It was doing something your first time, and sometimes there is a lot of pressure, right, for these exams, because you're like, this is my shot to get into a school. Sometimes you want to take it twice just to kind of make sure you gave yourself the best chance. I always say, if you have a chance to meet now 3 people from the admissions committee, you should probably be talking with somebody before you make a decision to retake. Hey, here's my score. Here are my transcripts. Can I have 10 or 15 minutes to talk about what you think about where I'm at, and we do that gladly all the time. That's pretty much one of the main things we do is meet with people. So Roy has a calendar, I have a calendar, Dylan even will do it, but we try to have let Dylan run around and be a dean. So he usually doesn't want to do every one-on-one, and he's been here 20 years. So usually we save those conversations for a little bit more other stuff other than asking if you should retake an exam. So I would start with, Roy, Raymond on our team. We have some alumni, counselors. I can meet with you all. Obviously, Dylan will be happy to meet with everyone, but after 20 years, you would expect Dylan to have other very more important things to do. So, but at the same time, our job is to really give you some feedback, and you're not in this alone, is really what I'm trying to say. So let me see. Here we go. So a quick example of like when to maybe take a prep course, and this is evolving for us because we're actually offering now a prep course for our admits that we recommend stuff for after they are admitted. But sometimes your profile really calls for it, and it might be okay to do it before you apply to give yourself a better chance to get admitted. If you are a sociology major, psychology major, English major, you might have transcripts that look like this. Rhetoric, Roy's transcript might look like this. And look, there is nothing wrong with this. The only thing that you will ask is, where's the math? Woohoo! I don't know. I don't see it. And a lot of times we don't have to take math if we have these majors, right? And you start looking at numbers and it's like, this is probably going to be your test score, and it's okay. You just don't have exposure to math. You didn't have exposure to math. You don't really use math. So you're not going to do as well in math as the people that take this exam, right? Maybe not. Maybe you will. But the point is that you probably will have a little bit harder time than other people. So maybe you need some help. And help just means exposure to take a class, maybe math for management, maybe business statistics, maybe something that can really just at least give you a chance to say, can I learn some terminology? Can I practice before I get thrown in an MBA course where there's grades and, we have GPA thresholds that you need to have to maintain your good standing as a student, right? So some of this stuff is we're trying to help you, right? So you can think about that. That's some of the stuff we cover in one-on-ones with different prospective students. I don't know if Dylan went over some of this stuff, but if not.
I did not, Chris. I didn't I didn't have
Okay.
time for, believe it or not, guys, there's stuff I did not say.
Sweet. Well, I stole a few slides from Dylan because some of this stuff is really, it crosses over, right? From like being a prospective student, really learning about UCLA and then trying to apply to UCLA. There should be some stuff that goes together. And what really goes together is we're asking all this stuff. What's your spark? What's your story? Because we want the best. And to get the best, you know, if we're bringing someone that's really strong, for them to get stronger, they need to be polished. So if that strong person is a diamond, let's say, and they need to be polished, you know, why do you polish things? I'm not going to, you know, pretend that you guys are not smart enough to know. You polish things to make them shinier, right? So shinier, better, right? To look out better, to stand out. Why do women have wedding rings? Because they want everybody to know I'm taken and I've got a great husband because he gave me a great ring, right? And every once in a while, you need to polish that ring to make sure when it hits the sun, it's shining, right? And it's a very strong metaphor to say, how do you polish a diamond? You can only polish a diamond with diamond paste, believe it or not. What is diamond paste made out of? Diamonds. So you need another strong person to help polish you and make you stronger. That's it, right? So we want to build a strong class. And that is a very ambiguous statement to say, again, consistently, since I've talked at 10 a.m. today, it's really a very, you know, open-ended thing. It's not a defined thing. So your job is to help us define that, okay? And again, it's about your story. So show us how you make UCLA better. Show us how UCLA can make you better. We have tons of resources. Dylan has 30 links he sent you. We have a website full of pages. We have 75 podcasts or something. We have plenty of information and alumni and students that are available to speak with you for you to figure out what UCLA can do. So, you know, you plug in where you fit in, figure out where you fit in. People can help you with that. But your job is to really know both of these, not just one, okay? So part of how you do that, you talk about your career, you show us your resume, you write these essays, you know, you do have a chance to interview and some quick resume advice. Again, we don't have tons of time. I'm going to just really go through this fast. On average, a resume should really be 1 page. Most of our applicants have less than 10 years of experience. Our kind of rule of thumb is more than 10 years. You can have 2 pages, 10 years or less, it should be 1 page. This is just a rule of thumb. It's not, you know, stuck in stone, but it is kind of some guideline for you to follow. Reverse chronological, go backwards. Usually people are putting their career first, but again, depending on how soon you've had education, if you really want to put that first, go ahead. You know, we really just want to get away from job description type of bullets, right? We want more situation. We want more of a target. We want to know more about what you specifically did, why you did it, what was the goal. And sometimes people say, I manage people, I manage 5 people, or, you know, and I always say, great, why? So what? What does managing people do? What if you weren't there? You know, and it's just like, what does your job as an account executive look like? On paper, job description, and then what is your job because of you, right? And figuring out the difference between those 2 things is going to help you stand out. So quick little things about formatting. Less is more. If this slide right here was full of 20 more bullets, do you think you would figure out what was more important? Or do you think you would just see a list of 20 bullets and then think they're all the same important, have the same importance? So realize that the less actually is more space, and it helps the eye find what's more important. So feel free to, you know, reach out if you want some resume feedback. We can definitely help you with that as well. Edit yourself. It's like, you know, Cake Boss or whatever. You know, if your cake's falling apart, you probably have too many ingredients. If you don't have enough ingredients, the cake's not going to stick together. So just think about that, you know, the right mix. Essays, this is where it all is. Everybody that comes to my workshop, you guys have the best essays, I promise, because you're going to answer these questions. You're going to make sure that you don't leave any of these questions out. You're going to have your 9 descriptors that are going to help you build your story. you're going to have the confidence, you're going to have a solid chance at explaining these answers, you know. And some people just don't answer questions, and they're like you know, it's like a bad movie where you're getting interviewed and you don't, or a bad politician, you know, where they're getting asked questions and they're dancing around the answer, right? Like, we don't want dancing. This is a time to really answer what we're asking. So again, this is not a surprise after I'm telling you all the things I've told you. We want to know what you're going to bring to the community. We want to know what you're going to take from the community. I'm saying it again. We really want to know. We're not just saying this, right? So answer these questions and rub that crystal ball, right, for the long and short-term goals. And there's no bad goal. The only bad goal is no goal. Don't be me, you know, and that's all. That you'll be fine. And I mean that, you know, with all due respect to myself, just really, I really didn't answer these questions in my life for a long time. And I'm hoping you guys can start answering these questions. That's really it. Okay. Sometimes people need to write some things in the optional essay and talk about certain things that there aren't other places to discuss. You know, sometimes people have a low GPA, they have some rationales, some things happen in undergrads, personal things. Maybe you want to explain that to help us have some context. It might not be a bad idea if you live out of the area and you just want to help us understand, you know, that you are aware of our different schedule options and which one would work for you. If you have a gap in your resume, or if you're changing jobs, or if you know, anything that, this is optional. So anything that you think you need to say, here's your chance. You don't have to use this essay. Quickly, the letters of rec, it's really just about trying to find the right person and ask them and give them enough time, right? You can kind of look at the bullets here. You know, if they say yes, go ahead and give them your resume, give them something to chew on. As it gets closer and they haven't done it yet, you can say, hey, I'm done with my essay. I'm really close to applying. This is the professional nudge, right? This is how you keep someone on your good side, but you're kind of saying, hey, you haven't done this yet. Here are my essays. You know, these might help you as well. And yeah, it'd be great if you can get this in the next week or two. I've already submitted my application, or I'm planning to next Monday, right? There are two main goals though for your recommenders. You want them to help you get admitted, but you also want somebody that's a mentor, a career advocate for the rest of your career. And if they're willing to write you a rec, they probably are willing to be, you know, someone that's going to be in your life for longer than that. So choose wisely. I always joke about this. If you go onto the right side, good recs need all three. They need to know you, they need to be willing, and they need to be a fan. Quickly, let's have an example. What if they aren't only two of those exist, right? What if they know you and they are willing to write a rec, but they're not a fan? Woo! They could actually hurt you, right? They could say, yeah, I'll write you a rec. You are a terrible person. Anderson, stay away from this person, right? Like, so you don't want that. And you also don't want someone that really is a fan and really knows you, but's not willing to write a rec. They're never going to do it, and you're never going to get reviewed because you only have one rec and your application is in awaiting materials, which you don't know what that is. But for us, that's a bin where we're just waiting for you guys to finish your application, right? The last one is they're a fan. They're willing to write a rec, but they don't know you. They're just going to say words that are very surface level. This person is great. I think they do great in your program. I have great things to say about them. They're a great person. And we're not going to know anything. They're not going to have any real substance to share. So let's get all three of those taken care of. All right. So as Dylan said, yes, I am sharing information on rounds. We have Thanos the first round. It is gone. It has disappeared from row one. In a snap of a finger. We're almost done with round one right now. We're reading and getting ready for our final decisions here in December. But yeah, you have 2 rounds left in this year, right after the holiday break, and round 3, April 5th. And don't rush, you know, take your time. And if you are ready for round 2 or round 3 this year, I would expect that you are probably at some point going to be meeting with someone on our team before you apply, one-on-one. Take the time, go ahead and do it. You know, we're here and I think it could help. So, you know, which round really, you know, the exam is sometimes the biggest thing. So If you've got that exam in a good spot, if you have an official attempt, that usually helps determine what round. Again, we can meet one-on-one about this stuff, but you will have to get some official documents in. You will have to send them in. So, read our website. Again, we can help you with that. Pre-MBA courses, I kind of talked about that. Some people can get admitted with a recommendation to take some stuff. Other people can take a course or two before, again, depending on your background. Waitlist. I had the honor of passing my waitlist duties for a few years. I ran it to Roy. So if you do get waitlisted, you will be working with Roy. The quickest way is to understand the waitlist is you applied and we like a lot about you, but there is one, maybe two things, usually one thing that we're like, hey, it'd be great if this was stronger, whatever it is. And we would say, we don't want to deny you this year. We want to give you a chance, but we'd like you to basically do something, take an action, and we're going to discuss what we'd like you to do. And we hope that you do it. And if you do it, you have a strong chance of getting in. So it's kind of like a action-oriented wait list. It's not a really wait list. We're waiting, right? So we're waiting for you to do something. Look at this. We've seen this before. Squiggly diggly. This is your life. Going in circles, up, down, and loop-de-loops. We should have some loop-de-loops in here, Dylan. But, UCLA will get you to have some squiggles that have a higher angle. Higher angle squiggles are the best. Sorry, I was going to just go back and forth a few times. It's a joke, right? But at the same time, the only thing that's not a joke is that most likely, yes, your life will probably have a higher trajectory, whatever you value, whether it's, money, responsibility, confidence, time, freedom, flexibility, whatever it is, choice. I think that a lot of those things can be interchanged, and that you'll have a higher trajectory with UCLA or with, there are a few other strong MBA programs, but I think we're one of the best. So, we're not the only thing in town, but I think that, you definitely are going to probably have a hard time telling us that we're not the best in LA. You're going to have a hard time telling us that we're not, top 5 in the country after we've been rated that for the last long time. So we'd love for you to have some fun with this. I've had some fun with this presentation, as you can see, cracking my jokes, getting paid to be a comedian. And, this is part of your journey, so don't skip over this part. It's year -1, and then year 0 is when you get admitted. And then year 1 is when you actually start. So this is really a part of your journey to even consider going and getting your MBA. My consideration period was short because my dad had a belt and he was whipping me into shape mentally to tell me, get your life together. Yeah, well, my dad used to hit me with the belt, because I was a bad kid when I was a kid. Nowadays, we can't do that. But I say that because I realized that listening to my dad is the right thing to do. He's a smart man. And he told me to get this thing. You should have way more time of considering an MBA than I did. And then if you think about that time and when you've actually made the decision to apply to an MBA program, then you should be thinking, how am I going to have the best application possible? And that is what I really want to hit home with you, is that there is a continuum, right? And if you haven't made that decision yet, this is definitely a little premature. When you have made that decision, then it comes down to saying, okay, I'm going to pull on resources. I'm not doing this by myself, because you don't have to. And, at the same time, you need to take some time by yourself at certain stages and do this self-reflection, okay? And really ask yourself, how can I fit and what can I extract and what can I add? So I think we've said this for the last 2 hours. Really, we're really happy to meet with people. And I think we do make ourselves pretty available for that. So
I in fact dropped in the chat a link to my scheduler, along with the extension classes that Chris was mentioning. Definitely meet with an admissions member first before you commit any time, money to extension classes. We might give you a bit of a more nuanced response. In addition to that, I also dropped in the link examples of men's diamond rings, so that we all know that men also like to show off what their partner has provided them, and a link to Cake Boss, because I love the reference, Chris, and I wanted to make sure everyone understood what you meant about good cakes, because that's very important as well. We have learned a lot today. I do want to make sure that Noel's question about your specific music types that you love, in addition to all the other questions that folks have, this was a solid 2 hours of information. But I do want to make sure that, Chris, you answer this question. What happened to your love of music? Where did it go from there?
So I actually started releasing my own music in 2019. So after 4 years of working at Anderson, I was tired of being inspired tremendously by the students that I saw, and I decided to follow my dreams a little bit like they were, right? So I don't represent my music as a director of operations for UCLA, so I do try to keep my life separate, but you can find it. I'll spell my artist name out for you. It's very close to my real name. There is a 1-letter difference. You can find some music out by me, but with that name. So thank you for asking, Noel. And I've never told nobody that I've been hit with a belt before, so I must really feel good with you guys. I do love my dad. I do think people need to get hit sometimes, but at the same time, I hope that I hope the times have changed and people like Roy keep me in line, because you know, you need to have different people to help you out in life. And sometimes, you know, we get off the rails and say that there's only women's diamond rings when there's actually men's diamond rings. So this is why you have classmates. This is why you have coworkers. This is why people help you stay safe. And I think that for the most part, I'd like to say that if I had one piece of advice that I haven't shared, it's just that, like, don't be afraid to ask something that you feel like is going to make you feel less than or something, because the fact is that, one, I guarantee someone else has already asked it. And if they haven't, then it's even more of a reason to ask it, because then it gives anyone that you're asking that question a chance to say, oh, wow, I haven't heard this before, right? And so we're always learning. Everyone should always be learning, right? And that's the thing. So I know we're probably really close to being up on time, but if anyone does have any questions, I'm happy to hang on a little bit. We can answer some questions.
So how about that? I'm going to go ahead and ask Chris and Dylan if they're willing to stay on for a couple more minutes.